So now we are going to have the heart of the evening, and Hiromi is going to give us an account of her awakening. And I think all of you are very familiar with Hiromi. She came to the center first in 2005. She took a foundations course under Fred in 2008. And then in March of 2017, she had an awakening. And she came to me and told me about it, and we talked, and we've talked a number of times since. And as is my custom now, if people have an awakening, I advise them just, to wait about a year or so to see how it all settles out. Sometimes people have just a flash or an episode, or it's a unity experience and it passes quickly and so forth. But after a year of talking to her more, I'm convinced that she's had a life-altering transformation, irreversible, and that she then is in a position, she knows what reality is. She's had firsthand realization of it, and so she's in a position to be a full-fledged teacher. So when that happens, I invite someone in that position to come and give an account of awakening. By the way, a number of people have had awakenings at the center and not wanted to be center teachers, and have gone on to teach on their own, or for various reasons didn't want to teach at all. So the people who are teachers here aren't necessarily the only people who've woken up at the center. So it's not a judgment about how many people woken up or something like that. It's for the sake of you that someone comes for a confirmation of their realization. So it's part of the lineage we pass on, and you can have some more confidence in them if someone else that you trust has now given that seal of approval. So it has nothing to do with my judgment about her awakening or whatever. Truly speaking, we're all our own authorities. If your search is over and you wake up and it's over, that's it. You don't need anybody else's confirmation or anything. So this is only for your sake that this process unfolds this way. So having said that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Hiromi. And if you don't mind standing up for us, I think it'd be easier for people to hear you. And I'm going to get out of the way.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming here tonight. I like to dedicate this. I like to dedicate this talk to my parents because without their love, I wouldn't be existing. And also, I like to dedicate this talk to you all, the Center Sangha members. Without your support, I won't have foundations to keep on going. So thank you. I struggle with love, and I start making songs, and I always wrote pain songs, hurt songs, and was wondering when I'm gonna have something else. And I wanted to let you know I do have love songs, so this is how I start. And I'm extremely beginner, so don't expect concert level, please. Close your eyes and soften your body and mind. This is the moment that grace has given you. Be here now. Let your heart guide you, not your mind. Don't be fooled. Feel the love light out the darkness with what it's like to feel what you are feeling. It's okay to sense what you are feeling as it is. Take the invitation. Join the party, be the dancing queen, join the true friend, always on your side. Come home now and hang out in stillness. Love, have you? Love, take over you. Be the love. Come along with me to the Saturday market. Let's get some coffee and listen to the songbirds. Go where your body and soul wants to go. Smell the roses, drink the nectar of life. This is the way to be alive. Love, have you? Love, take over you. Be the love. We don't wanna be garbage on the street, flat and dry. Guts and scrapes are precious. They make you. Love, have you? Love, take over you. Be the love. Be the love. Okay, so thank you. After that, I could just take anything. You know, it's fun to make mistakes in front of everybody and feel, you know, adrenaline really activated. I wanted to just give you a short background so you can understand me a little bit better. I was born and raised in Japan, city called Miyazaki, which is in southern Japan. My parents are true Pure Land Buddhist, and they also use Shinto. So it was interesting. I wasn't sure I'm supposed to say Shinto or I'm supposed to say Buddhist. And I was sent to Catholic kindergarten because my house was closest to the Catholic kindergarten. So my life was not quite one way, and look where I end up here. Let's see. I'm third in my family, youngest in the family, so I spend a lot of time at my grandparents, especially my maternal side grandparents. They lived in a city called Aya. It was about half an hour away from my hometown. And I spent a lot of time in bamboo forest exploring. I went to spend a lot of time in river with my grandpa when he goes eel fishing. So it was the place that I really lived naturally in a season, harmony with season. I felt really loved and I felt free. I watched my grandmother live very spiritual life. She would copy Heart Sutra. She would practice that. I watched her doing that as I was growing up. Also, she would make me in charge of offering food to altar in the morning. So she would prepare this dainty little breakfast for Buddha and ancestor altar, and I would take it in, and it was my job to bring it back after dinner. And so she, without making me do something extraordinarily important, she really got me prepared for what it's like to live with divine in her life. I didn't have to be told or showed because I did with her. And she brought light everywhere she went. She's my goddess. She's my Wonder Woman. So she passed, and I think of her, and I'm grateful that she really helped me have foundation of what it looks like to have a spiritual life. And then I have to share the part that my environment when I was growing up was the way people discipline their children was through physical punishment. So my parents, my school teachers, my piano teacher all used the physical punishment as the way of discipline. And so I was surrounded by that kind of energy throughout school life. Up until, I think, high school, I didn't experience any physical punishment. So until middle school, I experienced that. And then I'm making this point because this made my body react particular way. And I didn't think of anything. That was way of life, and I accepted it. And middle of that environment, my aunt, my father's second youngest sister, she spent 1 year in London when she was young. So she spoke English, and she taught me 3 words when I was probably around 5 or 6. Hello, how are you? Thank you. And I remember, I was little, I remember this vibration I felt inside of me. I did not know, but I knew it means something to me, and I'm going to really go after that. So when I have English class started in middle school, I was pretty happy, although I didn't do well in class. So I was given an opportunity to have a private English conversation tutor, and that really helped. And then with everything else, just I've been telling my parents I wanted to go to America and I wanted to study there. I wanted to study psychology there in English, not in Japanese. So in 1991, I came here, and I turned 21 a couple days after and got to experience the bar. My host family took me to the bar then. I was really blessed to have my host family. Without their help, I won't be here. They really taught me how to survive, how to navigate in this country. And I didn't know even how to catch the bus. And, just like, what is that string? It's like so barbaric. You pull string instead of pushing a button, and you hear the announcement of next stop. None of that here. You're supposed to know when to pull the thing to get the bus to stop. And so I had a lot to learn, very different system. And my host family, the one really taught me how to do that. And when I was there, I think my host brother, he just got back from mission. He was a Latter-day Saints missionary. And so I got really involved with Mormon church. And I actually got baptized. And I did read the Book of Mormon. I studied the scriptures. I read Bibles. I did the whole Christian life thing. And it was very helpful to be in a safe environment right after coming from very conservative, traditional household in Japan and extremely conservative parents. So going into another environment that was totally in like bubble for me and safe, and I enjoyed that safety that I felt in that organization. And I appreciate studying about the Jesus that I didn't know much about. So that was good. But I knew inside, this is not me. I'm not gonna be able to go through this canning and not having coffee and those are very small things, but I just knew I'm kind of Buddhist by heart. So that didn't work out, and I went back to Japan, and after being in the States for 4 years was pretty rough. I experienced counter culture shock, struggled to speak, and it was very interesting experience, being a stranger in your own country, feeling foreign. Then I knew that nothing is there for me. So I convinced my parents again, and I chose Evergreen State College because that college has sister university relationship with the university in my hometown, which I have nothing to do with. However, it was a good excuse for my parents to feel some kind of connection with my hometown. So I used that, and it kind of worked. So I started to be in the third year in Evergreen. I was able to transfer my credits and studied and learn what is this hippie creatures. I was naive Japanese woman. I didn't know what the hippie is, and it was interesting to immerse in a politically very strong interest environment, and hearing a comment like, I'm not going to wear a Nike t-shirt, I'm not going to give a free advertisement. It never occurred to me to think that way. So it was like, I just did because it looks cool. And to like, you have a belief and that's why you won't do certain thing was very new way for me to be at this very liberal university. For those of you, you know, Evergreen State College. There, I met my husband, Matt, in a senior year in a multicultural counseling, psychological counseling class. He obviously changed my life for good. And it's been my fear of partnership is the boredom. I never lasted any relationship more than 3 months when I was dating. And so I was afraid it's going to be so boring and how am I going to deal with that? But he never bored me. Always excitement, almost the opposite. And this is when I learned what the Buddhism means. I thought, is this the same Buddhism that I was raised? It was that different. I just thought Buddhism as in ritual practice because my parents have so many rituals that they have to do every year for so-and-so's 30-year death anniversary and 15th. And, there's so many, I can't keep it up, but I was always the one have to stay home, help them cook, clean the house, and get ready for ritual. And after the ritual feast, was my parents' job because they're the elders in the family. So we're always in charge of making it happen. And I was their work bee, and so I hated it. That was the main reason I wanted to leave Japan. I wanted to be away from that ritual. And then I didn't have a ritual. It was different in Latter-day Saints. And then I met Matt, and he is somebody who's not living a religious life, but he has a spiritual life. I didn't know there is such a word. Religious is the only word I knew. And the spiritual life he led was something so precious and so sincere. It wasn't, gotta do this because ancestors, needs to be blessed and respected and needs to be clean and, beautiful here and everything needs to work orderly. And that way of obligation was so something I felt strongly about. And so that's how things start to shift for me to learn about Buddhism. And I got disowned because my parents were upset that I am in relationship with American. I didn't know my parents are racist in a way, but they grew up in the era that they were little children when the war was going. So I'm married to somebody from enemy country. So now I can really understand. Back then, I was just thinking, how dare you to just regard somebody that way? I was very hot-headed, and I just only thought, so mean, like he's got same parts and everything, and he just speaks different language. But when it's come to their own daughter, it was not something they could accept. So I got disowned by choosing love, but I knew if they are gonna be that way, I don't want that kind of family. So I just accepted that. But my uncle, my father's youngest brother, was the one really helped my parents convincing if he doesn't, especially my father, doesn't accept this marriage, then he's going to lose his daughter for good. I think my uncle really felt that urgency. So he was able to convince my parents, and I got blessing for our union. And I have to tell you, after that, there's nothing that difficult. It was the hardest thing that I have to really go through to stand up and say, I'm not coming back. I met somebody. I love him. I'm going to live here because I found love. And my parents couldn't really understand. And they came this last summer, and visited us in here. And I think, honestly, it took them 20 years to really know Matt, who he really is, because they really couldn't see him. Now they saw him in this environment, and they really appreciated so much sincerity and honesty and love that he brought into my life. Okay, moving along, and my son was born, and Matt discovered this guy wearing poncho, and he happened to live in Eugene. Oh my gosh, he's right there. And he showed me Joel's poncho picture and said, I want to move to Eugene because I want to study with this guy. And I'm like, are you really? And I mean, I grew up in fancy Buddhist robes, so that, I'm sorry, Joel, no offense, but like somebody with the poncho, I just like, what do you see him? What do you see in him? And I had no idea. But my husband was really good at sharing resources and pointed out, my parents going to be in Eugene as well. And you're going to have an extended family, and it's going to be great for kids. And sure enough, that I was struggling with my baby, so that made sense, and I want my kids to have same kind of relationship I had with my grandparents. So we moved, and then came Mina, my daughter, and I struggled with postpartum depression. It was hard having two babies. And in that middle of difficulty, in 2010, Matt woke up. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's just like our family continued to shift. And this is a time also I start to feel union, what the actual union feels like through lovemaking. And I have to say that was my first experience of my divine union I felt. That's why I wanted to share this with you. And through that, the message came while I was walking with Andrea, hiking with Andrea after the Joel's retreat in Lone Pine, came the message, okay, go to take the chaplaincy training, Buddhist chaplaincy. So I went to Upaya Zen Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico. That's where I took the 2-year Buddhist chaplaincy training. I studied with many famous, world-famous Buddhist teachers and exposed to lots of books. And this is where I discovered neuroplasticity, neuroscience. I didn't know how much of my being, my way of being was influenced by trauma background. So I would lose my sleep, like the day before I have to give a talk here or something, that it's intense anxiety that my stomach literally hurts. And so I have to really practice this neuroscience, and I really took on, and that became part of my practice as I go through the chaplaincy training. And I practice every day. When my kids scream, I will practice grounding and resourcing. those of you who got those teaching in the maths class. So I practice, and that really started to change my nervous system reaction. So I would finally stop losing sleep over something I'm so anxious. That made a change. So in my past, trauma healing is very important because I had very strong background in that. I can't say that for other people, but for myself, it was very important to really look at my trauma and not to just talk about it, but just let it come through me using this body. And that was the beginning of major shift. I think around that time, I finally dropped my judgment over not liking meditation. I just hate meditation. How could you just sit still and just supposedly blissed out? It just never happened for me. So it really didn't. And it's so uncomfortable. And I left Japan, so I don't have to do this. And I'm supposedly choosing my own way, and it was just very humbling. And it started to change as I practice resource and grounding on the meditation too, so I can handle the pain. And it really made my practice manageable, and drop that judgment really helped. I just did because I had to do it in chaplaincy program. It was part of the requirement. So after everybody leaves from the house, I would sit for half an hour, and then I would chant Heart Sutra. And I just did, like I brush my teeth every day. And that really changed my strong dislike of meditation. And I realized how much I was putting tension in sitting posture, upright, and I can't breathe. So relaxing my body really helped me. I didn't know how much I was stiff internally also. My mind was really stiff. There was no room to breathe and sense into the stillness. Okay, so then I am not the mild person I discovered as I grow up. I decided I wanted to be on the street after the graduation from the chaplaincy training. And what that means is I live on the street like a homeless person for 4 days. I really wanted to do it just to see how much I'm willing to be open myself. And so the hardest part was to convince my husband on this, because he knows what that means to be on the homeless at night, and he did not want me to do that. So it took me 3 months to convince him. He knew I wasn't going to give up, so he gave me a blessing, and I got to go. And I cannot believe how liberated I felt, just carrying $1, my ID, and a hefty bag. I did not know what the hefty bag was. I had to ask, and somebody told me, oh, it's the brand, but it's a garbage bag. Is that the only thing I can carry to take it to this retreat? And yep, that and a blanket you can carry all the time. And I was very scared, but being on the street, just once you're in there and just open yourself up, it was like a treasure hunt for me. It was interesting. It's like all the other homeless people are so kind. And the woman at the Starbucks who gave me free coffee, I said, can I have a coffee? And then she looked at me and said, okay. And then I said, I don't have a money. And she looked at the other coworker and said, okay. And I didn't have a guts to say I would like it with coconut milk. I just took straight black coffee, but I was still grateful. So I was very grateful to experience that kind of acceptance and help that I received from fellow people on the street. And that really liberated my experience. I'm no longer afraid of being poor, not having money. I can survive. I tell my kids if something happened, we could just go to the shelter and we could totally survive. I know how to get around. And I mean, hopefully that won't happen, but I feel that liberated in that sense. And then what happened was, okay, so chaplaincy is over. I'm gonna need to find way to figure out my life. And I'm gonna go to the meditation retreat and sign up with a fall retreat. And the first day, on the way to my breakfast, I slipped and broke my ankle. And I could not get up for 3 months. That was the true blessing in my life. I'm not kidding you. I'm not exaggerating. It's nothing but blessing. I learned to really feel the sensation. I was no longer able to check out, disassociate the discomfort I would feel, because the bone ache so intense that you have to be there in your body to just hunker down and just be with it. And that practice was incredibly intense, and took a courage, but I experienced bliss. I really be with that intense bone ache sensation I never knew. And that took me, I followed that sensation, and that took me to bliss. I could not believe, oh my gosh, I am beyond this pain body. That was like the first time I experienced bliss through the pain, that level of intense pain. So this injury gave me extended retreat until Father noticed, and I took a vow to live as expression of Dharma. I am not going to let this ruin my life. That vow was really important, and that really helped me to practice. And I practice all the time. Oh my gosh, you'll be so proud of me, Joel. It's too bad you could not see how much I have to really practice everything I learned here. That alleviating your thoughts, alleviating your emotions, just really be with the sensation and cry if it hurts. And if it's frustrating, cry. It was so liberating. I learned to be with this body in the process. And then, okay, so looks like I did thesis. I graduated from chaplaincy program. So now I earn all the criteria to be ordained as a lay minister from Roshi John Halifax. And this has been my goal for last 2 years. And so I was so looking forward to it. And I extended myself too much, doing many volunteers at many organizations. And I got sick, I got flu, and I could not make up my mind. So I sent an email to Roshi John. She told me, my dear Hiromi, good chaplain will have good self-care skills. take care of yourself. May I accept my limit with compassion. That was what she gave me. So there goes my marriage with Buddha was gone like that for now. And I felt like my marriage really got canceled, really felt devastated. And so I decided I'm gonna just go into my bed and mope. That's what I decided to do on March 2nd. And this was the exact homework that was Matt's classes. It's the Zegar Kungdru Rinpoche. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that name. His Intelligent Heart. This is an excerpts from that book, and I got this from Todd. And so I thought, okay, at least I'm going to be a good student, and at least I'm going to do this homework, and then I'm going to still mope. So I remember Joel telling me, oh, she's stubborn, so I'm sure it'll be a good thing. And yes, I am stubborn. I'm at least going to be a good student here. And I start reading this excerpt. And the moment I read, I like to read this part because I think it's, this is a part he uses an inquiry. So he uses an inquiry of the cat poop. And he's looking at the cat poop, and he's in this beautiful garden, and a little bit irritated, annoyed with it. So he used that example. I use my mopey, I use my devastation to go back to back with his inquiry. And as I read, blah, 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 it has no substance whatsoever. None of our thoughts and emotion have any essence. It was, I disappeared into light. I was, what is it, discombobulated? I mean, totally, I was gone. I was gone, I'm nothing, and then I am everything. It was, the word will not describe that moment of discovering of this being, that light. I am home. I have been home. I don't need to search anymore. It was such a relief. It was such a relief. Oh my gosh, I've been searching this for all my life. And I start to wail. I never wail. I cry relatively often, but I never wail. I never knew what it means to do that. But wail came. I just cried and really loud. Luckily, nobody was home, so I was able to let out. And it lasted for a long time, and then I let myself finish wailing. Not let myself. It just came through me, and then my body felt sort of comfortable and peaceful, and more. You start to feel like, oh, there's something good's happening. There's something happening in me. And it was then the innate bliss totally filled my body. I blissed out in this innate bliss, just spread in this body form. And so to be precise, I wrote it down. 9:47 a.m. on March 2nd, 2017 to 10:17 a.m. that I had this whole process, and I was just laying on my bed, my hands resting, and this whole thing took place. And I realized, oh my gosh, this must be what happened. And I wrote to Matt, I texted to Matt. I realized there was nothing to lose, dwelling ocean of spaciousness. At last, I returned home where I knew of my being. I'm relieved. This of human experience, so colorful, just precious. Thank you. Wow, now I feel fantastic infinitely, is what I wrote on text after I went through this whole thing. Lastly, I wanted to just talk a little bit about stillness touch, which is what I practice now. It's the biodynamic craniosacral touch. And the reason why I'm mentioning is it's really helping me to go through this unveiling process quickly. I came across this practice totally randomly, but randomly, spontaneously by going with Matt to Mexico to meet his teacher, Charles Ridley, who is the founder of Stillness Touch. And I just went because I wanted to heal my ankle and get the sunshine and hang out in the beach. I let my heart navigate, and I was invited to sit in for the session, so I did, and I experienced the guided meditation by Charles, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. I feel something. I'm in something here. I wanted to know. And so I sit in to his session, and Matt gave me a session as firsthand right after the guided meditation, and I was naturalized in this session. I realized I am beyond this form, this ancient being. It was old and timeless and complete peace. And it really stabilized my back and forth. It's like stabilized my resting in my heart instead of my mind navigate my life. So I was able to live from my heart, and so I let myself go through this session, and I received also a session from the teacher, Charles, and I pooped out my mind from my head when he gave me a session. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of talk on poop, but it's the important part of my process. And when my mind was oozed out, it rested in my heart and turned into gold, this golden light, and dissolved, and I was in peace that I never felt. So over and over, this stillness touch helped me to be in this body and accept the intensity and paradox and go through this form unveiling and keep returning to your true nature. So for me, the stillness touch was really important, and it really helped me feel goddess in myself, and I feel I'm using this body as love to connect with you who are in form of love as well. And I feel incredible gratitude for having this body. I never appreciated body. So this is like a first time in my life I'm appreciating. I'm not asking for a tall body. I'm not asking for, skinny face. I'm happy with what I have and grateful that I get to connect with others, and others as in you and me, this form. So it's been amazing, and I'm first time in my life, I'm in love with my life. And I appreciate small thing that I never appreciated. So it's been lovely process for me to go through. And I really appreciate all of you coming here tonight and listening my talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. You're in trouble now. So, you got any questions for her?
I have one.
Yes.
You talked about realizing before you woke up, but late in the process of all the trauma that you had in your body. Was that from the painful discipline that you received before middle school? Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Were you aware at the same time that that was emotional as well from the beatings or whatever that was?
There's a lot of trauma, so my go-to is check out. It's too hard to be in my body. So I learned to disassociate and not in my body. So it was important for me to be in this body and feel this body so what's stored in my body could leave. And so now meditation is wonderful. I enjoy it. I can truly say, so you have a hope, if there is somebody like me who really doesn't like meditation, there's a hope because I really didn't like it. Yeah. Yes, Laura.
Was the stillness training before you woke up or in the middle of it?
After. Yeah.
I was just reading the Dalai Lama talking about enlightenment and saying that to start with, you get a flash of enlightenment and then you go back to your regular life. And you flash of enlightenment and you go back to your regular life. And finally, you can be enlightened in your life. The kind of two. Have you had an experience of that?
Oh, it's all the time. I have not reached freedom completely yet. And I am continued to unveil, but the speed changed since my openings. I think used to take a lot longer for me to recover or realize I was just forgotten again. That's quicker, and I can say I'm sorry a lot quicker. That is, I think the texture feels different for me. It's not as sticky. I have so much judgment. And so now it's like, oh, I just yell at kids, I forgot. And I'm not really like resisting this process and, beating myself up and that kind of thing. It's the glue is loosened, so I feel like I can notice that quicker. So someday. So I'm definitely going through the process. Okay.
So you feel like the trauma, that experience still comes up at times, and you have to look at it and let it go. What's that process like?
So for me, it's there's a thought. I don't want to feel this. It's too much, and I notice that first. It's kind of easy for me to go with the thoughts. Okay, I'm just gonna let that go, and then I feel my body, and usually I'm really tensing my gut, and then I'm cinching my pelvis. So I'm preparing for the pain to come somewhere. So this used to be my positioning. So I still have this movement. So I'm noticing, okay, I'm just gonna be there, hang out. So just be with that sensation, and it just sometimes moves through, and it's just texture, sensation shifts throughout. It's kind of interesting process. If you ever get a chance to be with that, try it, because it's really interesting. It does not stay on one sensation for me. It moves and shifts, and then dissipates. You let it dissipate, and then you feel this complete change in your sort of physical being that so the trauma release definitely. So you get this jitters, you cry, your nose bleeding, you burp. I had a lot of burp, and just all kinds of things happen to release what's stored in your body. And I went through quite a bit. Sometimes I still go through some of the things that really old, but it's just very subtle, still there. So I noticed that. I think a stillness touch, like meditation and stillness touch, definitely helping me to be witnessing that process without backing out, because I was too scared to just feel that. As a kid, it was so painful. It was so painful, not only physically, just in many ways. So I would not want to feel. So nobody had to tell me, but I would just check out somewhere. And so I learned to do that, and I had to learn to come back. And my ankle injury really helped me to be in this pain and be in this body, not escape, and experience and let it come through. And so after you go through this kind of release, then your body gets integrated, and your response over time changes. And I'm telling you, this is a major reason I decided to come out also, is because truth is so kind. I thought, okay, well, I'm not tall. I have two round face, and I don't speak perfect English. I'm a woman. I have so many criteria. I'm not going to be on the same line as everybody else to even consider enlightenment or awakening. There was strong message that I tattooed in my head that will not delete. I'm not good enough to be on the same line because I have this trauma background. So I get too anxious. I can't be same line as Matt or, somebody else. So that really did not help. And so to me, really knowing myself, understanding myself, becoming intimate with all those parts that I really hate about, that was really important, and be transparent. I said everything, so now you know everything.
So this is a difficult question, and I can understand if you didn't want to answer it tonight, but I think you're touching on it. Do you think women wake up differently than men? Do women have certain levels or obstacles that must be faced? And I think you're speaking about that to some extent.
Yeah. I think I'm a woman, so I speak from woman's perspective. I think because we built anatomically different, and I also heard my teacher Charles talking about women has this just the energy of absorbing. So we absorb a lot of what's in our environment. So we're very sensitive to that naturally because how we are built. And we are the form of love, the goddess that bring the life into this world. We have that capacity to do as a woman. So I think we have much easier time connecting with our nature and flow of this life and being this divine play. And more we can relax, our mind, our heart, and also I would say pelvis. This is an important piece that I didn't, because I always did this to prepare. So my pelvis was always gut. Pelvis is always tense and closed, and that did not help. That is not how you can really feel the love in this life. So to me, I think anatomical difference are there. Yeah. Sophie.
Okay, so you had that. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. It's really awesome to hear. You had with the intense bone ache in your ankle, you had that sort of bliss experience, and then realized you were beyond the pain body. And then at some point, you took a vow to live as an expression of Dharma. I have two questions. One is, what motivated you to take that vow? And then, you know how you said you practice all the time? You threw out a couple of things that you practice, but I'd like to hear more about your practice and when you did it. And was it when you were sort of on the couch with your broken ankle, or was it even after you recovered enough to live your daily life as usual?
So what's the first
one?
The why?
Yeah. Make the vow, and then your practice.
Well, here's the part that I am a stubborn person. I wanted to look good, and so supposedly I have to live, practice what I've been taught here. So there's a little bit of that resistance always, because as a child, I never was considered as a smart girl, and I was never good enough. So the place that I possibly can do better, I wanted to do good. So I wanted to practice and not ruin my life. I wasn't going to give up my life. I'm going to use this to collect more gold. And it's for my own family too. I want them to see how I'm not going to let this destroy my life and be really depressed. And then your second question was?
Tell us about your practice.
Oh, yes. So the practice, my ankle hurt all the time. And so I didn't have to search for opportunity. It was there. It hurts all the time. And so I would, okay, so I'm going to feel this sensation. If I did not pay attention, if I look into my thought, it hurts. Okay, so that's thought, and I drop that, and then I just, okay, so without your mind, it's just a sensation, right? So I'll just be with the sensation and watch it, how it moves. I'm going to investigate, like he would say. I'm going to investigate how sensation moves. So sometimes I do that, and sometimes I just take, Tylenol. That was
good practice.
That was a good practice. Okay, I'm going to ask Matt to give me an acupuncture because it really hurts. So you have to learn to, be realistic and also pay attention. I guess that's what I would say. I start to pay attention. Okay, I don't want to call Bev and say, do you think you can take my dog out? I have to call Janet and ask her if she could go get my prescription. I mean, asking for help. I have people's names thanks to the Kindness Network, but I just hated to ask because I did not want to get rejected. And that's going to happen, but I was so afraid of rejection, as if like they're saying, I hate your gut, I don't love you, So it's like, it's very silly, but that I had that message in my head, so I have to really see that. It was like very silly, but it's there. And then when I saw that, then I realized, oh, okay. But you're giving them opportunity to practice too. You're giving. Even though you're receiving this help, you are given the opportunity too. And that really shift. And of course, like I got more thicker skin, is that what you say? So yeah, like I can take the rejection as just it is, and well, they have a life too. So, so there's like that kind of practice, more of like looking, witnessing, and noticing. Other thing was like through this injury, there's so many things I discovered. I could not stand that look that I get with the crutches or the cane. Yeah. I just could not stand that look. That look, and I just like, I just wanted to just disappear. And I realized, people don't know what to say. I had people come up and say, I'm sorry that happened to you. I had that happen to me too. And I see your cool, the peg leg thing. And then I say, yeah, this has been my, lifesaver, and it's cool, right? I'm really lucky I found this. And so you start a new connection there. And I discovered Tamarack Pool, and from there, there's so many, people who are there for rehabilitation reasons, and it was so humbling. My injury is like nothing compared to some people. It just made me very humble, and I learned so much from talking to some of those people. It's telling me what I can use to go through this process, and I feel more connected with people in general, that I can, I'm not just judging by how you appear anymore. I used to just think, gosh, you people just like meditating for so many years, and I will never be on the same line, and you're so perfect, and you're blissed out in your perfect posture, and I'm the one thinking about, oh gosh, what am I gonna do, and blah, blah, blah. And so I used to just take that way about most of you. Seriously.
Now you realize how
No delusion.
So it's been very humbling, and connecting with life in general. So I don't need to do a lot of things to feel joy. I say, follow your bliss. That is what really got me through everything. And that's what Matt keeps telling me. And I follow that, and I am in bliss with you right here. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so now I have a question for all of you. Do you want her to be a teacher here?
Thank you.